Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2 o'clock, so we are going to go ahead and get started with this presentation. I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for joining this as part of Academic Advising Awareness Week. We do have spring registration starting next month in October. I know, can you believe it? So we're just gearing up and trying to give you all some facts about transferring, the advising process at Wake Tech, and just things to help you along your way as you're a student at Wake Tech. The topic of this presentation is transfer myths and tips, understanding transfer truths and competitive admission requirements. My name is Caitlin Fowler, and I'm an academic advisor on the Scott Northern Wake campus. And assisting me today is Kendall DelRio. She is also an academic advisor on the North campus. We're located in Building B. We're just there 2 days a week right now, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but soon we'll be operating 5 days a week, starting the week of October 12th. So yeah, we can go ahead and get started with the presentation. And should anyone have any questions during the presentation, you can submit them to the question and answer box, and we will make sure we get to them. All right, let's get going. All right, so the objectives for today's presentations are to develop an understanding of the difference between university myths and truths and learn tips for competitive admissions requirements. So we'll get started with the university myths and truths. So common heard myth that I know myself and other advisors here in their offices are, it doesn't matter what degree I'm in, any degree will transfer. So we have two different, styles of degrees at Wake Tech, and we can move on to the truth slide. So the truth is that the degree you're in matters. The AAS, or they're known as Associate in Applied Science degrees, are made up of work/skills specific courses, which are very limited in transfer options, if there are any transfer options. The Associate in Arts, Associate in Science, Associate in Engineering, and Associate in Fine Arts degree, which are our university transfer degrees, they offer the fastest transfer pathways with the most university options within North Carolina. So if you are in one of the AAS degrees or Associate in Applied Science degrees, you'll really want to speak with an advisor to see if there are any transfer opportunities once you have completed that degree, if you'd like to move on and get your bachelor's degree. We do have some articulation agreements set up with specific colleges and universities for some of the AAS degrees, but that's just something you'll want to check with your academic advisor with your faculty advisor, because it might be a better option for you to be in one of the university transfer degrees if you are planning on going on and obtaining your bachelor's degree. Okay, we can move on. So another myth. The Associate in Arts and/or the Associate in Science degree will take 2 years to complete no matter how many classes I take each semester. We can move on to the truth slide. So the Associate in Arts and/or the Associate in Science degree will take you 2 years to complete if the student takes 15 credit hours each semester and does not have to take transition and/or support classes. So what does this mean? If you are going part-time, let's say you're just taking 2 classes each semester, it's definitely going to take you more than 2 years to complete that Associate in Arts or Associate in Science or Engineering or Fine Arts degree. The degree itself is made up of about 20 classes, 60 to 61 credit hours. So to really transfer and complete your degree within 2 years, you're going to want to take 15 credit hours each semester, and that'll get you done in a fall, spring. You can take classes during the summer to assist you with your degree progress, but really the degree ends up taking most students more than 2 years to complete because they're working, they have families to take care of, and just, outside life responsibilities. So while the degree, yes, can be completed in 2 years, it can typically take more than 2 years if you are not attending full time. And when it comes to the transition and support classes, As some of you may know, you might have to take a support class with your English 111 or Math 143, 152, or 171 course. That's all going to be based on either your high school GPA coming in, if you took a placement test coming in, and that is definitely something to discuss with your academic advisor because the support classes are 2 credit hours each. So that could take the place of a class that you were intending on taking a specific semester. So all of this is definitely a great topic to discuss with your advisor. We can move on. Myth. So I get asked this question a lot, and so do other advisors. Students must take a foreign language to graduate from one of the university transfer degrees before transferring to a senior institution. We do offer foreign language at Wake Tech, but you do not have to take a foreign language to graduate from the Associate in Arts, Science, Engineering, or Fine Arts degree. However, certain senior institutions might require a foreign language. For example, UNC Charlotte, they typically will require up to 3 semesters of a foreign language for many of their degrees, and so will UNC Chapel Hill. NC State, they sometimes require up to 3 semesters of a foreign language for some of their degrees. So that is a topic to discuss with your advisor. You can look at bachelor degree plans together, prerequisites together to see if the institution that you are interested in transferring to does require foreign language. I'm just going to add on to this that sometimes institutions will also require a PE or health credit. And while Wake Tech does not require that, like I said, some institutions do require that. So that's just another good topic to discuss with either the transfer advisor from that specific institution or with one of the advisors here at Wake Tech. So to wrap that part up, myth, you need a foreign language to graduate from Wake Tech, but the truth is, nope, you do not need that foreign language credit. Myth, the senior institution will accept all course repeats and base admissions on program GPA at Wake Tech. So as some of you may or may not know, if you take a certain class, let's say, for example, English 111, and you don't get the grade you desired in that class, you can repeat the class, and Wake Tech will do what we call a grade replacement and include the higher grade in your GPA. When you're transferring, when you're applying to certain institutions, many of them will take all of the classes you've taken at Wake Tech and calculate your GPA based on that. So while the grade replacement at Wake Tech will boost your GPA at Wake Tech, and most of the time the senior institutions, they're going to calculate their own GPA. Does anyone have any questions so far? Please feel free to type them in that Q&A box. You know, I know some of these are topics that advisors often hear in their offices. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in that chat box. If you have that question, odds are someone else is thinking it too. So I'll just go over that truth again. Senior institutions will sometimes calculate GPA on their own, including every class a student has taken at Wake Tech to determine your GPA. And we can move on to the next one. Now we'll move on to competitive admissions requirements. Now, those were just, several myths that we've heard in our offices, but if you guys have any more questions related to transferring, you think you've heard something from someone and you're not sure it's true, please feel free to enter it in that Q&A box and we'll help you out. We'll get that question answered for you. So here are some tips for competitive admissions requirements. Pay attention to the university/college GPA versus program GPA. So what this means, and I see a question in that chat box, and I'll get to that as soon as I am finished going over this point right here. So institutions themselves have a minimum GPA that students need in order to be able to transfer there. But then sometimes the degree that you are interested in entering in has another GPA, another minimum GPA that you must meet. So I'll give an example of NC State. So, you know, they have that minimum GPA, and Kendall, please feel free to chime in and correct me if I get this wrong. I believe it's a 2.2 or 2.5 GPA for NC State. But then the business program, they have that minimum GPA of 3.0. So while you might meet the minimum GPA requirements for that institution, you might not meet the minimum GPA requirements for the degree that you're interested in entering. So that is definitely a good topic to discuss with your advisor, with the transfer advisor from that institution. So let me take a look at these questions right now. Why retake a course for grade replacement if the university is going to determine their own GPA? That's a good question right there. So not every university does determine their own GPA. The advisor that you meet with can definitely, you know, tell you if that university does calculate their own GPA. But some universities and colleges do not calculate their own, and they'll just take what is on your transcript from Wake Tech. And it can also show that, you know, you're determined to raise your GPA, you are looking at forward progress, you're trying to better yourself, better your GPA. So, and ultimately transcripts do tell a story. Let's say you had a rough semester, but you came back and, you know, you passed all your classes with A's. That's going to show that, hey, maybe something was going on in their life at that certain time, but they came back and they were determined to do better. So I say if you received a low grade in a class, it's always worth it to retry it and, you know, try to shoot for that better grade that you were trying for.
Another thing to consider when you're looking at the GPA issue is the CAA eligibility, if you want to speak to that, Caitlin.
Kendall, if you want to jump in on that one, go for it.
Sure. So for there's something called the Comprehensive Articulation Agreement, and we are happy to talk with you in more depth about this. If you're in ACA 122, that course goes into depth about the Comprehensive Articulation Agreement. But basically, the Comprehensive Articulation Agreement is a state law that lets our transfer programs move between Wake Tech and the public universities of North Carolina. And it's a really great program, meaning that you could get some of your gen ed classes waived when you're admitted into that senior institution, but only if you graduated from Wake Tech with our transfer associate's degrees with C's or better in everything. So it's a really important thing. If you want to get more for your money, that you get C's on everything within that associate's degree, because you could sometimes get all those gen eds done when you're admitted. So it's a really great idea. If you get below a C, you're going to hear from us that we recommend retaking it if it's a class that counts towards that Associates of Arts or Associate of Science. So that's all I had to add about that. But we've got awesome questions coming in, so I'll let you.
Sure do. What is the most competitive GPA? So, you know, that's really going to depend on what institution and what degree you are trying to get into. And, you know, they take other factors in when you are applying to institutions, you know, not just that GPA. Yes, your GPA is very important, but also they like to see what contributions you've made to your community, what contributions you've made to the college, the community college that you are at. But of course, you know, it really depends on the institution that you're trying to get into. If you were trying to get into, you know, UNC Chapel Hill, then I would say, you know, you really want your GPA to, you know, be up there in the high 3s to a 4.0, because their transfer admissions, you know, are very competitive. If you are trying to get into NC State's business school, I would say a competitive GPA is 3.5 and above. So it really depends on, what you're going for and what institution you're trying to get into. What is the most transfer-friendly school? So again, that's going to really depend on what you're going for. If you are, if you're an engineering student and you're trying to get in for engineering, then I would say UNC Charlotte is a little bit more transfer friendly than NC State. NC State has, it's really competitive to try to get in for engineering to NC State. ECU is a very transfer friendly school. I would say, any of those UNCs like UNC Greensboro, Wilmington is a very UNC Wilmington is a very transfer friendly school, but it's really going to depend on what you're going for. If you retake a class, does the first attempt disappear from your record? No, the first attempt does not disappear from your transcript. It will still show on your transcript, but when Wake Tech is calculating your GPA, they will calculate that higher attempt in your GPA. So it still stays on your transcript, and any institution that you apply to will see that lower grade, will see that first attempt on your transcript as well as the second attempt. Do universities look at program GPA or cumulative GPA, and what's the difference? So the difference between the two GPAs, your program GPA is the degree that you are currently in. So if you're in the Associate in Arts degree and you see the program GPA listed, that is going to be calculated based on the classes that you have taken in the Associate in Arts degree. Your cumulative GPA is going to be all the classes you have taken at Wake Tech. So, if you were in business and then you changed your program to the Associate in Arts degree, or, to a different degree, the cumulative GPA is a culmination of all of the classes that you've taken at Wake Tech. Do they look at program GPA or cumulative? Kendall, help me out with this one. Yeah, they typically will look at that cumulative GPA. That's what I thought.
So the difference between the cumulative and the program at Wake Tech can be really important to students, but initially when you're transferring, they're going to be looking at everything. So you can't send a separate transcript for each program. Your transcript has all of your curriculum classes on it. So they're gonna use everything they can see to make that admissions decision, and that's the case for pretty much every major. They want to see everything they can on you, and that's what they're going to use to make that decision. And I would say, initially they're going to look at everything, but they're most interested in the courses that transfer. So if let's say you started as a game simulation student, but then changed to transfer for computer science. If you didn't do so well in those game simulation courses, but did really well in your transfer courses, those are going to be the more important courses to the university. So they're going to look more closely at those. But all of the grades will have an impact on your eligibility for transfer for sure. That's a great question. And that's definitely one of those gray areas where, we would help you to contextualize that information in advising, but we would also refer you to somebody at the university that you could speak to about how your unique situation might be impacted.
Yes, excellent. Next question, when is the best time to apply to transfer? Again, that's going to be something that depends on what institution or institutions that you are applying to. So NC State, they have a fall deadline, they have a spring deadline. If you are applying for the spring semester to get in to start the spring semester at NC State, October 15th, that's that deadline. If you are applying to get in to start for a fall semester, February 15th is going to be that deadline. Some institutions have rolling admissions where they will take applications, through the summer. So that is just something you'll want to look at the university or college's website to determine when their application deadlines are. And, I don't recommend, let's say their application deadline is, March 15th. Then I don't recommend waiting until March 15th to get that application in. The earlier, the better, of course. So yeah, don't wait until the last minute. And especially if the application asks for letters of recommendation, don't wait until that last week to ask your instructors or to ask, an advisor or a club advisor or, your boss from work. Don't ask them the week that the application is due for that letter of recommendation. A good rule of thumb is to, give them at least 2 weeks to get that letter written for you. So yeah, again, I would say, just make sure you're checking those application deadlines on the institution's website to make sure that you're applying on early and on time. So I'm just gonna move ahead with the PowerPoint if we don't have any more questions right now. As questions come in, I will pause and answer them. I think we just had another one come in. Under what circumstances would you recommend retaking a class? So, Kendall spoke to this a little bit earlier. If you are wanting a class to transfer and you received a D in the class, then you'll definitely want to retake that class to at least get a C or higher, because grades of C or better are the only grades that will transfer. If you receive a D in the class, it will not transfer to another institution. So that's definitely one circumstance that I would recommend you retake a class. Also, if you're just trying to boost your GPA, I would recommend, if you're trying to get into a competitive major, I might recommend retaking a class then as well. What courses are the easiest to transfer? So again, Kendall mentioned earlier that comprehensive articulation agreement. And so, any of the classes that fall under the associate arts, associate science degrees, if you graduate from one of those degrees and apply to one of the public North Carolina colleges or universities and get accepted, then they'll take that degree as, a package. They'll take all of those classes that you took under the Associate in Arts or Associate in Science degree. So those will definitely transfer to a public North Carolina college or university. If you are in one of the Associate in Applied Science degrees, then that gets a little bit trickier. The general education classes, that you take, like your English, math, science, a humanities, fine arts course, social behavioral science course, those should transfer, but that would be worth talking to your faculty advisor, talking to the advisor from the institution about. But if you are in the Associate in Arts or Associate in Science degree, then those classes are very easy to transfer. So I will move on with the PowerPoint.
Go ahead, Kendall. So the question, what courses are the easiest to transfer? Mm-hmm. One thing I definitely want to make sure that student is aware of is we make the course recommendations within advising based on what the school needs you to take for your intended major. So a lot of times, as Caitlin has on this slide, there's the bachelorette degree plans, and she's going to talk more about those in just a second. Those are the required classes that you need to take to be on track for the major that you'd like when you end up at your destination school. So we don't always have a choice of picking an easy quote unquote class. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you were trying to go to NC State for engineering, you don't have a choice to take statistics. You have to take pre-calc algebra, trigonometry, calc 1, 2, and 3 before you can transfer a lot of the times. So there's not usually like a list of easy classes that we can focus on that will get you into all schools. Instead, what we focus on is, what is your unique goal for your major? What school are you trying to go to? and then researching what those requirements are for that school and making sure you get the correct classes, not just the easiest classes. Because you can spend 2 years or more at Wake Tech, get our associate's degree, and still have 4 years left at a university if you don't take the right classes.
Yes, and that leads right into the following of the baccalaureate degree plans. If you've met with an advisor, you might hear those referred to as BDPs. And the colleges and universities have really helped us out on this front because they will break down the degrees that they have at their institutions and break those down into classes that they want you to take while you're at the community college to make the most of your time, so that when you transfer to their institution, you're really only taking classes that are major specific there. So for example, I know I keep going back to business, but it's just always something that's, at the forefront of my mind because we have a lot of students that like to transfer for that. But, if you are intending on majoring in business administration at a 4-year school, then a lot of times on the bachelor degree plans, you'll see microeconomics, macroeconomics, Math 171, which is the pre-calc algebra, Math 263, which is brief calculus. So they list classes that they specifically want you to take as part of that degree. So like I said, that when you transfer there, you really are only taking the major specific classes. So if you're coming in with, if you're applying with all of those classes under your belt, then that's really going to make you competitive because you're not going to have to take, many or even any gen ed classes while you're at that institution. You'll be able to go right into your major. I see another question over here. Do universities prefer to see a completed associate's degree before transfer, or just a good GPA when a student is ready to transfer? So that's a really good question. Thank you for that, Juliana. It really does look good when you complete the associate's degree because it shows that, you have longevity, you can complete a degree. If you've already completed one degree, then you're more likely to complete another degree at their institution. Now you can transfer before you have completed the degree, but there are certain requirements that you have to meet in order to be able to be considered a transfer student at that institution. And one of those requirements is a minimum amount of a minimum amount of credit hours that you have to have completed. And that's typically around 24 credit hours. Some institutions are up to 30, and some institutions have as little as 12 credit hours needed to be completed. But you'll want to make sure you speak about that with your advisor to make sure, if you aren't intending on completing the degree and then transferring, making sure that you speak to your advisor about that to see when would be the best time for you to transfer. But they do like to see students having a completed associate's degree. But I'm going to switch topics. There are some degrees where the institution recommends that you do not complete the associate's degree. So for example, if you're interested in architecture, then most times they recommend that you just complete 30 credit hours at the community college and then transfer because there are so many, portfolio and studio classes that you have to take as part of the degree. So they recommend you get to that institution, as soon as possible. Same thing with a lot of music degrees. They don't recommend that you finish the associate degree. So it really depends on, the institution you're trying to transfer to and the degree you're trying to enter in. And that's all great things to discuss with your advisor or transfer advisor from that institution. What is the most popular major for transfer students?
Caitlin?
Yeah.
Before we move on to that one, I just wanted to mention on Juliana's point, most students are going to benefit from finishing the associates. There are a tiny number of exceptions to that, and that includes students that are interested in music, sometimes if they're interested in design, or sometimes if you're interested in a really specific niche major that's not very common at Wake Tech. So for example, we don't have a lot of the classes that a design student needs for transfer. So a lot of times it would be better if you just did a year or two at Wake, or a year at Wake Tech and then transferred. But that's really, really, really rare. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. But basically that's just to say, please talk to your advisor about that.
Yes.
I just always like to mention that because I get students every once in a while that come in and they'll be like, I'm done with my associates, I'm ready to transfer. And I'll be like, oh, you want to go into design? And so you might still have 4 years left of your degree when you transfer, but that's very uncommon. That's very specific to the type of degree you're getting.
Yes. What is the most popular major for transfer students? I'm sure Kendall can speak to this as well. I meet with a lot of students that are interested in transferring for business, meet with a lot of students who are interested in transferring for some type of engineering. Also meet with a lot of students who are interested in transferring for nursing or some kind of pre-med track. I would say that those are some of the biggest things that I meet with students with. Sometimes communication is thrown in there, but I would say, business, engineering, nursing, those are some of the biggest ones that I see. Kendall, do you agree with that, or do you see any other different ones?
I agree. Yeah, those are all the top ones for me. And then I also get a lot of students interested in the social sciences, maybe because they took a class early in their career in psychology or sociology and that really interested them. So that happens sometimes, but definitely the top ones that you mentioned: business, nursing, engineering. Those are the top ones that I see.
Is it true that even when you finish, it will take you longer to finish your undergrad? So that is not necessarily true. If you follow that baccalaureate degree plan, the BDP, and you've taken all the general education classes that that institution wants you to take for the degree that you're interested in, when you transfer to that 4-year, if you're going full time, it could take you just that last 2 years to finish the degree. So it really all depends on what you've done at the community college level as to whether or not it's going to take you longer than 2 years to finish that degree at the 4-year. It also depends on if you're going full-time or part-time at that 4 years. So there are, many different factors, and every student is going to be different.
I think what's really unique about our experience as advisors, and you can agree with this or not, Caitlin, too, I'd be interested in hearing your perspective, but every student that we see, every single student that we see, there's not one advising session that's identical. So, and I think that's what's really exciting about advising, because we can really offer you unique guidance on every situation that you might have. You can bring that to us, but unfortunately it makes these kinds of presentations a little trickier because there's not one answer. So when you say, is it true that even when you transfer, it will take you longer to finish your undergrad? I would say that's definitely not true for students who utilize advising early and often.
Yes,
so if you can utilize us, we can get you on track and keep you on track.
Absolutely. What do I not like about the transfer process for college students? I can't really think of anything that I don't like about the transfer process. I think that if you, like Kendall was mentioning, if you are utilizing advising, early advising, following those bachelor degree plans, then the transfer process can be a really smooth one. You graduate from Wake Tech and then you move on to the 4-year, and hopefully in 2 years you have that bachelor's degree. I can't really think of anything that I don't like about the transfer process. And, I can't speak for other community colleges, but Wake Tech, we do a lot to help out our university transfer students. We have the transfer fairs. We have representatives from various universities that, in a normal semester would come to campus and speak with students and assist them with the transfer process, with the application process. During this virtual time, we have universities who are doing virtual table sessions, so you can join in a virtual session with them and ask them questions. So really at this moment, there's not anything I really don't like about the transfer process. Kendall, do you have anything you don't like?
I'd say the only thing that sometimes I get frustrated with is that the websites for each individual college are very different, and sometimes the bachelor's degree plans and the transfer information can be in different places for each school.
Yeah.
And sometimes a little bit hard to find. But we know how to find it, and we're happy to teach you how to find it. So really, that's a very specific advising critique. Like,
Yeah.
so for you, it should be really easy to find, because all you have to do is make a virtual appointment with us if you want. You don't even have to leave your house or your room, and we can help you show you how to find all that information.
Yes. What is the youngest age you can transfer from Wake Tech? So you can transfer at any point from Wake Tech. Some of the universities, they do have that age requirement on there. You know, if you're 21, if you're below 21, then they're going to look at your what you've done in high school, your high school performance. They're going to want you to send along your, you know, high school transcript, any SAT or ACT scores. But if you're over that 21 age threshold, then they're really just going to focus more on what you've done at the community college level, or if you're transferring in from another college or university, they're going to look at that more. So really, Wake Tech does not have an age limit. Will new transfer programs be created in the future? I do know that it is in the works to have a Associate in Arts and Associate in Science transfer program created for education for students who are interested in majoring in education at the 4-year level. That is not completed yet. I think they're looking for a fall 2021 start date for that. So that has not been created yet, or it's not been, you know, finalized at Wake Tech yet, but that is something that is in the works. And yes, Kendall put in the Q&A that we have a virtual transfer fair coming up October 7th and 8th. It's going to be a Microsoft Live format like this. So make sure you check out the extra website to see when those events are and what time different schools are going to be giving their presentations. So back over to the PowerPoint. So we just finished up with the baccalaureate degree plans. Another good tip would be to speak with the transfer advisor from the senior institution, so they can really give you some good insight on the institution and the admissions process there. You know, should you have some, you know, leadership experience? Should you have some volunteer hours put on there? They can just give you some, you know, tips to really have your application stand out at the institution. And you're going to want to make sure that you're applying by the application deadline. That is very, very important. Apply on time, and if you can, apply early. So we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. Some more tips. You know, really attach any of those supplemental application documents. So if they're asking for a resume, go ahead and attach that. Personal statement, I always tell students to provide this, even if it says it's optional. This is really the chance for the university to get to know who you are. Otherwise, they're just looking at numbers on a transcript, right? They're just looking at your GPA or any test scores that you might have. So that personal statement is really going to, you know, give them a chance to know you and, you know, learn what you'll bring to their campus environment. I highly, highly recommend completing that personal statement. If they ask for letters of recommendation, and if that's optional, you know, I recommend that you get those in. You know, ask an instructor, ask an advisor, a club advisor if you are part of any clubs at Wake Tech or organizations, a supervisor you might have at work. You know, I really do recommend, you know, if they ask for any of those optional documents, that you get those in with your application to help yourself stand out. Meet with your Wake Tech advisor at least once per semester. we can really help you stay on track, making sure you're taking all of the classes that you need to take that will benefit you once you transfer, so that when you do transfer, you really only have those 2 years left at the university or college. And lastly, showcase your involvement with school and community. What do you do to help your community? What do you do to help your school? How are you improving things? Institutions really like to see leadership experience. So if you're in a club or an organization at Wake Tech, maybe run for an executive board position, maybe run for that secretary or treasurer or president or vice president position. Maybe volunteer with your community. If your community has like a soup kitchen or trash cleanup at a nearby park, volunteer. Do some leadership activities. Just really showcase how you are benefiting your school environment and your community. Who should you ask for a letter of recommendation if you haven't interacted as much with professors / major related professors? So yeah, this can be a tough one, especially in this virtual world that we're in right now, to really get a lot of interaction with your instructors. Let's see, Kendall, you want to help me out with this one? Who would be if you work for a job and you have a supervisor who can help you out, that would be a good person to write you a letter of recommendation.
Yeah. I definitely tell students the easier way to go about this issue is to avoid it being an issue to begin with. So you do not have to be the best A+ straight A student to have wonderful relationships with your professors that are going to lead to great experiences for you in the future. So let's say we're in this online environment and you're in a class right now, just like you are right now, and it's kind of nameless and faceless, right? You're an anonymous attendee. We don't know who you are. However, we're available after this. So you want to make sure that with your professors or advisors that you're sending emails, letting us know who you are, what matters to you. And doing that throughout the semester, not just at the very end or 2 weeks before you need a recommendation letter. Because if we know who you are and we know that you've been trying and we know that you're really invested in school, we're going to remember who you are. Some of my absolute most favorite students were my C students that really fought for those C grades because I got to know them really well. So if we get to know you and know who you are, it's much easier for us to write a letter of recommendation. If you're not making that effort with your professors, you're leaving money on the table. You're paying for those professors to teach you. That's what your tuition's going towards. So you have the option to make this relationship with everyone you come into contact with at the university, and those people will then be able to plant these seeds for you, these letters of recommendation. If you don't have those relationships and it's coming up to you have to go ahead and apply now, you're going to want to, like Caitlin said, look to your work experiences if you've been volunteering. You can also speak to family friends if they're in the same industry that you're in, but it's always going to be hard to get letters of recommendation if there's not professionals who know who you are. So the easier way to do it is to start to build those relationships and treat it like a class. Maybe put reminders on your calendar that give you an alert that say, hey, it's time for me to send an email to check in with these people that I know I'm in a year I'm going to want to use as a recommendation. And then that way you'll be set. If you're a freshman and you're signing into this advising session, you're already on the right track. So hopefully you can use that advice. But if you're later on in your career, it's not too late this semester to start building those relationships with your professors this semester. So that's my kind of backwards advice. It's not as helpful for those of you at the end, but hopefully you can find some information that's helpful from that.
Yes, absolutely. And we can go ahead and move to I think it's the final slide. So I just wanted to make sure, because I've said it so many times, to meet with your academic advisor. I just wanted to let you all know the locations of advising on the different campuses. So at the Northern Campus, currently we are operating out of room 213B in the B building, and soon to be room 244 starting the week of October 12th. On the Southern Campus, they are located in the L building, and on the RTP campus, the building is RT1. So what do I enjoy about my job? That's a good question. I love working with students, and even the students who come in and say, I don't know what I want to do, I feel so lost. Being able to connect them with different resources on campus and help them realize their dreams, their goals, and then hearing back from them that they've applied to a certain institution, their dream school, and they've gotten in. I just really love working with students and helping them along their way. And it's just wonderful to meet with so many different students every day. And like Kendall was saying, not one advising session is the same. So it's just really exciting to be able to help you all along your journey. Kendall, what do you enjoy about it?
I just love that I never know what's going to happen. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I'll start an advising session, and it really is, there's not many jobs where, I do the same job a lot of the time every day, but I just never know what's going to happen when I'm speaking with somebody. And I think that is probably more true in different contexts than we think. Probably more jobs if we thought about things with an open mind more, and if we work with the public, you probably wouldn't know what was going to happen. But it's just really unique that every student that comes into our office has their own story and their own goals. And I just love hearing that story and getting to know every student. There's not a lot of jobs in education where we get to work one-on-one with students. So much depth. And so I feel very lucky that I get to hear about each and every one of your stories. So it's the best job on the planet, I think. And so a lot of students will ask, well, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, well, I can tell you the job I think's the best. But yeah, that's what I love about it.
Mm-hmm. And that about wraps up the presentation, but I am just going to, let it run for if anyone has any other further questions. I believe yes, it is being recorded. Yes, this session has been recorded.
And I'm trying to find the link to the YouTube channel because I think a lot of these are going to end up on our advising YouTube channel.
Yes, I do think that I've seen that. Yeah, that. Maybe not today, but possibly tomorrow it'll be uploaded to the YouTube channel.
And before you guys sign off, we would love, love, love if you would do a evaluation for us.
Yes.
And so I'm going to send that to you guys right now. I'm going to make an announcement. And so there's the link. If you could go ahead and fill that out for us, that would be wonderful.
That really helps us improve these sessions, get some really good feedback to see what you liked and, didn't like about it. So we really appreciate any feedback you give on that evaluation.
So I just got a great question. It was like, what could make your job easier? And I would just say that if we could see you guys in September and February instead of December and August, that would be awesome.
Yes.
But we're here for you anytime. We're going to be here for you whenever. But we would love it if more students took advantage of our service all year. Instead of just, early on. But yeah, there's not anything that could make our jobs easier other than, we want to see students all the time.
Yes. And as you all know, this is Academic Advising Awareness Week. So I'm I'm just going to encourage you all once again to meet with your advisor, whether you are an AAS student and you have a faculty advisor, or you're in one of the university transfer degrees and just meet with one of us. I highly recommend, getting in with your advisor in the next couple weeks to plan out your spring semester. That way you're not waiting until the last minute and then all the classes, all the sections, all the good sections have been taken. So yeah, I highly recommend getting in with your advisor sooner rather than later.
I'm not able to find the YouTube link because it's in my Teams account, which is what I am using to be on this call. So trying to see if I can grab it because I know that Kathy had pasted that. Let me see if I can grab that. Oh, I was actually just on it. Let me see. Oh, I got it. Okay, great. I'm going to put it in the call. You guys have been awesome. These are some of the best questions. I was really excited when you started sending those out to us. But here's a link to our YouTube playlist. So if you missed some other events and you wanted to hear what other awesome topics we're covering during Advising Week, head on over to our YouTube. We've got those sessions recorded, and I'm sure this session will also appear there once it's been buffered and is available.
And if you have any follow-up questions, I'm just gonna be nice and I'm gonna put my email address in here just in case you had a question but you didn't feel comfortable asking. Please feel free to reach out via email and I can definitely assist you. All right, we'll hang around here for a couple more minutes just in case anyone submits another question, but I just want to thank you all so much for attending this presentation and thank you all for the great questions. Really appreciate it. And I hope that this was helpful for you all.
Yeah, this was really fun. I want to do a bunch more of these. It was great.
It was a good time.
I love that I've got some of the questions coming in. Let's see. Great. Don't forget, if you're still here, we would love for you to fill out that evaluation, and that's in the chat, the Q&A as well, the link to that.
Yes. Thank you in advance for completing that.
Yeah, it really helps us streamline these events, make sure that we're doing a good job, if there's anything we can improve. Because ultimately, if it's not working for you, we want to know. Because we have 3 more people on the call still. No more questions are coming in, it looks like.
Okay.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and end the live stream. So go ahead and grab those links if you haven't. I'll give you 1 more minute to go ahead and grab Caitlin's email, if you want to grab the YouTube channel link, if you want to grab the eval link, if you want to jot down those dates and the website for our virtual transfer fair. Go ahead and do that now. All right, y'all, it's been wonderful. We hope you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.